everybody. Welcome to the second episode for our podcast series. Hi, I'm Apoorva Gomber, and I'm an NCDChild young leader from India. And I've been working with my co-fellow and my entire team for this podcast series. And I would like to hand it over to Alex to introduce himself once.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Alex Kwok. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. I'm a clinical researcher by background. I'm also a NCD child young leader, and I'm so happy today to be co-hosting this episode with my fellow health advocate, Apoorva Gomber. Pass it over to you.
Thank you. So welcome to our awareness raising podcast series, Stand Up, Speak Out, where we are aimed to tackle the stigma and discrimination of people, specifically youth living with non-communicable disease and even their caregivers. Now, as we all know, the WHO defines NCDs as group of chronic diseases, those with longer duration and result from a combination of multifactorial issues. The four main NCDs right now are heart disease, cancer, respiratory disease, and diabetes, but there are way more than that four by four definition. Now, in early 2021, we NCDChild young leaders did an online survey which served as a consultative process to gauge whether youth living with NCDs had experienced stigma and discrimination, and their preferred platform to voice their experiences. Now, a majority of participants indicated that participating in a podcast series would be the preferred platform to amplify their voices, the voices of those unheard. Guided by this consultation, the Stand Up, Speak Out podcast series aims to understand the lived experiences and the illness narratives of young people living with NCDs, highlighting experiences of stigma and discrimination, which is a neglected issue within the realm of NCD advocacy. So here we are with an eminent panel of two speakers from across the globe who will be here talking with us about their journeys and their personal experiences with NCDs. So here I have Anita Sabidi from Indonesia and Jazmin Suxo. I would like to hand it over first to Anita to introduce herself briefly and tell the listeners about yourself and where are you from.
Hi everyone, my name is Anita Sabidi from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm a diabetes advocate. I'm also a designer, illustrator, and artist.
Yes, thank you, Anita. Over to you, Jazmin. If you could introduce yourself, tell the listeners who you are and where are you from and what brings you here.
Okay, hi, I'm from La Paz, Bolivia. 2 years old. I'm studying medicine. I think that's the most important reason for me to be here, because I want to expand all the information I have about the diseases and also help my country this way, because it's so important that the people know about this and be more empathic with all the people that have these kind of diseases.
Thank you so much, Anita and Jazmin. We are so honored that you guys are here with us and talk about stigma and discrimination and finally change the narrative around stigma and discrimination within the NCD realm. So I hope we can have this conversation for long, but since it's a short conversation regarding the podcast, we would love to hear your journeys out there and just be yourself. So Anita, if you're comfortable sharing, could you tell us what NCD you live with and how has it been since your diagnosis?
Actually, I live with multiple NCD. I have type 1 diabetes, cardiomyopathy, and asthma. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1997 when I was 30. And I was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy and asthma later when I was in college.
Could you expand more about that, Anita? How's your journey since diagnosis, when you were diagnosed and living with multiple chronic diseases?
So, in many Asian countries, Indonesia is a cultural country. We have 1,347 tribes. I'm one of the small tribes. And growing up as a girl means you're on the second level, which means you're expected to be at home. You cannot pursue higher education. Everything you do will be perceived as you do nothing. And when you have NCDs, you will become a burden in the family. It's not easy at all, because when I was diagnosed with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, my mother, she just took me home and let me stay at home without insulin at all. That's when my father finally stepped up and took me to the hospital. And I mean, my father, he was an offshore worker. He spent like 2 weeks at home and 2 weeks offshore. And he told me, Anita, you have to manage diabetes by your own, because there will be no one helping you at home. So on day one, after my diagnosis, I learned how to inject insulin by myself and manage my diabetes by myself. But that's the reality. I mean, because I know it's common in Asia. I trust. I mean, I think Apoorva also understand the situation, because that's what happened. I mean, because when you're a girl, you're perceived as no one, and when you have NCDs, you will be a burden in the family, because you only cost money for your family.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anita. And I totally resonate to that feeling.
Yeah.
And you being an advocate for it, fighting that was really powerful, and you've been doing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Over to you, Jazmin. I know you're from Bolivia, but if you could share how are you living with NCD, and as a medical student, what brought you into the NCD realm?
Okay. Actually, I'm not living with a person with an NCD, but 2 months ago exactly, I lived with one. That is my grandmother. She has a amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It's a strange name and it's too long. When I heard it the first time, I was in fourth year in the university, and it was so strange for me because I didn't hear about it. But when I know that when my grandmother was with this disease, it was like a boom, I think, for my family, because everybody started to read about it. Everybody started to look for ways to help her. No, because it started after my grandfather's death. Doctors told us that it was the reason, because it was a stress situation, so it started the disease. It's a genetic, or maybe there is no reason for the disease. It's not a exactly cause for this, but in all the time she was with the disease, it was so hard to try to help her, because this affects the muscles and it affects one by one. I mean, in her case, it was first her tongue. So she stopped talking. She couldn't stop, she couldn't talk anymore. Then her hands, she couldn't move anything, and until it affected all her body. So I think that it was so hard, because we had to look for more ways to help her, to eating, for moving, for going to the bathroom, for example. That it's a basic thing that all people do in every day.
Yeah, thank you, Jasmine, for sharing that. And I believe your role as a caregiver to your grandma, and also as a healthcare professional training to be a medical doctor, uh, brings a huge amount of perspective here on why we are doing this conversation around NCDs. So going back to Anita, you said a very powerful word, that as a woman, you're not considered to be fit enough, or you're considered as a second grade citizen, uh, and not given support, and just left to yourself. Could you expand more about why do you say that? And did you like, why do you say that? And what stigma and discrimination did to you, like, as you were growing up?
It's difficult, because when you're a woman and you have NCDs, although you manage your NCDs pretty well, people always perceive you as if you have weaknesses. And the hardest part is when they start to make decisions on your behalf, considering of your health condition. There are some moments that I can't even speak up on what I want to do, because the society make this a decision on my behalf. And and how the society treated me makes me, when I was younger, I feel worthless. I have a very low self-esteem. It's really hard to find, to do what I want to do, because most of the time people make decisions on my behalf. I cannot do what I want to do. So but I finally had my courage when I finally met someone else with type 1 diabetes. That's where I learned that I'm not the only one with type 1 diabetes. And then I start to, yeah, I mean, I think that's the key point of having someone else with the same NCDs. I mean, you're not feeling alone, right? So that's when I start to explore my opportunities on looking things that I like, and try to prioritize myself. So there's a moment where I finally had a professional help assistance. I had a psychologist assistant, and what she said is that prioritize yourself. It's okay to avoid the toxic community, even though it's on your own family. But if it's toxic to you, it's okay to avoid them and just focus on yourself. By managing your diabetes well, empowering yourself, just make yourself visible.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Anita, for sharing that. And I know you're such a strong advocate from making that invisible disease to visible, being an artist. And I would come back to you for that question. Over to you, Jazmin. And the beautiful part about having the two of you, the two strong women from two different parts of the world, is that you've both come across stigma and discrimination through different ways, as a caregiver and as a person living with the condition. But Jazmin, for you, I have a special question. As a healthcare professional, I know the role becomes even more important, and you're on the other side of the table when you're in a conversation with somebody living with. So as a healthcare professional, could you share more about what stigma have you witnessed as a medical student within the clinics, and what you can do more about it?
Since I started to practice in hospitals here in Bolivia, I saw many different ways to treat people. I think since the doctors until the patients treat a person with an NCD in different way. I mean, for example, when I was in a practice, the doctor went saw it was a young woman with diabetes as Anita, and she was coming to her country, and she said she was so tired. I saw her so tired because she was walking all the day, and I know that it's a heart disease for the people that have it. So the doctor tried to help her. I mean, talking slowly or making questions exactly for the people. But in other cases, I saw that the doctors sometimes have to attend the patient fast, so they don't have the I don't know how to say it. They don't have the feeling to help the people that it's in front of him or her, because they want to do it fast. They want to start and finish in a minute. So that's one of the problems, and I think one of the stigmas that people have here, because they think that these people can do the things that like they do. They do it slowly, or maybe they do it in a different way, but they don't support them. They don't give them any help. Also, there are people that can do it, and as a healthcare, I think that we can give them more help, can give them support, can give them ears to hear them because they want it. That's the most important that they want, I think. A part of the medications, a part of the royal of the doctor, it's more feeling for these people.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jasmine. So my question is, can you expand on the relationship between patient and people living with NCDs, and what's the process? How's your relationship with patients, and do you feel like there's enough time listening to patients, not just yourself, but like observing your peers doing medicine?
Okay. Yeah, I know that time is so important, but I think that there are many ways to treat them. I mean, starting with saying hello to the patient is so different. The consult with them, because I saw some doctors that say just sit and nothing more. But if you, as a doctor, say I don't know, hi, how are you? Why are you here? Please sit down and talk more friendly. I think it could help, and also it could be faster because you could get the information you need with mm, not so much words, or maybe only seeing the person because of the face or the hands only can understand it.
I think that's beautiful, Jasmine. And I have a follow-up question to that, and I would bring that back to you after I get back with Anita. So Anita, coming back to you, I know it wasn't easy, and it has never been easy living with the chronic disease and also doing all the other things in life while you're managing your own condition. So I know it was not easy, but how did you cope up with the stigma, discrimination, and overcoming that invisible disease and making it visible with your art and you being an artist? So could you share some of that?
Oh yeah. I think my favorite word is like prove them wrong. So whenever someone said that I cannot do that or do this, I try to prove them wrong. So so when I was in college, I participated in martial arts. I joined a lot of activities. I mean, and when I told them that I have diabetes, they were surprised because I wasn't supposed to do that. But yeah, but I think the magic words proved them wrong, because actually, I mean, we have the same competency like anyone else, as long as we have a proper diabetes management right. So nothing can limit us, actually.
I love that. And I love the little smirk. Nothing can limit. And I think that's the message I think people should know. But people are trying to put us in a box. And that's where we are trying to change the narrative around it. So I want you to expand a little bit more about how did you find art, and what are you trying to convey through your art about stigma, discrimination, and about your journey as a person living with?
Actually, I started to draw since I was elementary school, but I never have the support because um they probably it's costly and so on. So they don't want me to focus in other else, just to focus in education, maybe basic education instead. But I explored myself after I got married. I joined a studio. I love urban sketching, self-portrait painting, and canvas and digital art. And I don't know, I think I find my moment through art. And if you can, probably you've seen what I'm doing. So most of what I'm doing is related with diabetes. I mean, there's a message in that art. It's really with diabetes awareness. Because I sense that people are visual human being. They absorb information better through images instead of textbook. So that's what I assume. So I try to promote diabetes awareness through art.
Thank you so much, Anita. And you're so inspiring. And I feel this is an amazing platform to hear your story, your journey, and like you said, that nothing can limit us. So could you share, like, so that more people know about your work, like the message you're trying to create? Could you share what platform do you share your work? And, yeah.
Oh, actually, I have several platforms for my design. I'm a designer. I design customized clothing for people with diabetes, especially for ladies with hijab, because we cannot roll our sleeve up for injections, right? So I design clothing with hidden zippers for insulin injection and hidden pouch to store insulin pump. And for the illustrator, I currently illustrating a children book carb counting through images, because I know kids absorb information easily through drawings or images, right? So I made children book on carb counting. and also I have another platform. It's for diabetes, for type 1 diabetes awareness for children. That's a lot. I love drawing. I love drawing, so I'm sorry. I have a lot of platforms.
Thank you so much, Anita. And I think we would definitely put the links out there with the podcast to share your work, because you're a fearless advocate for type 1. And the message you're spreading needs to reach to people that, yes, nobody can limit us, and you're making that possible. Thank you so much. So from one strong woman who's not letting the world define her to another person, now over to you, Jazmin. I know as a healthcare professional, as a caregiver, your responsibility is even more sometimes. And could you explain a little bit about, in Bolivia, how has your role been as a healthcare professional? And do you think our doctors or healthcare practitioners doing enough? Are we doing enough to combat stigma and discrimination? And what more can we do to make it better?
Okay. Yeah. Based on my experience, for example, with my grandmother, I feel it's so hard, so strong, because as I told you, when I saw her for the first time with the disease, when it was affected the first time, it was so hard, because in my case, as here in my family, they consider me as a doctor since that, because all the problems that my grandmother has, I had to look for a solution. I mean, she was propense to suffer colds, but not just simple colds. So it was so hard. So I had to look more ways to help her. And it was just a piece of the real situation in the world. And here in my country, for example, I know that doctors has so many limitations, because here we don't have the meds, most of the meds that we need. For example, for this disease is so hard. We only can use analgesics, for example, and it just talking about treatment, but talking about the stigma and the discrimination, I think that we always can do more, especially to help these people, because these people, for example, can walk or can do the same things that we do. But it doesn't mean that they are less or they are not important. It means that we have to give them more importance than us, because they need more help than us. So I think the health care professionals, as nurses, doctors, everybody in the hospitals, can do more helping people to guide them in the hospital, for example, because here are big hospitals that people don't know where to go. So it takes them more time to get to the doctor. So we can help them in a small thing, but doing small things every day, I think we can be a big thing and help them more. So I think that as a healthcare professional, I can help with a small thing, and maybe tomorrow it would be a big thing. As Anita, for example, it has more and more ideas. So I never heard about this. And I think it's a great idea. I really like it. I would like that here in my country would be this. So I think that we have more to do, more to explain, more to say, more to hear for these people.
Thank you, Jazmin. That's really powerful. And listening to both of you, it brings this very important message that, yes, you can't limit us in a box. And then coming from you, Jazmin, that when you try to limit us in a box or define us, we often have to look for some solutions to let it out. So I think that message you're sharing with the participants today, and everyone who's joining, that yes, we need to look, and we can always do much more than what we are doing today. So thank you for that. And I will go back to Anita now for one last question before we close down this beautiful, and I know I want to talk more with you guys because it's never enough. And I want to work with you to find solutions to our problems in this world. So Anita, in your opinion, and in like 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes, could you define, or could you tell us, how can we change the narrative around people living with NCDs who are discriminated? And there's so many people out there who are still hiding it. How can we change that?
Empower yourself, make yourself priority. You are precious, you are important. You can only manage things that you can manage. You can't manage the surroundings around you. Just focus on yourself. If you cannot manage the surroundings, just let it go. Focus on yourself.
Any last message for somebody who's listening and who's still struggling with it?
You are precious and important.
Thank you. That's powerful. Same question, Jazmin. In your opinion, how can you change the way people living with NCDs are discriminated, and what more can you do as a healthcare professional, and why the responsibility becomes even more critical as a doctor or a student engaged with people living with?
A few years ago, I learned a phrase that here in Bolivia, in Spanish, means ser más para los demás. In English, it means be more for others. I really like this phrase, because I think if we try to do more for other people, we try to be, not just to be, I mean, be a better person, to help other people, it will be a different world, different situation for everybody, not just for people with some disease. I mean, I could feel better helping other people. And I think that most of us has to realize that this sensation of being more for others is the biggest thing that we have to look in our lives. So that would be my suggest, I think, for people.
Thank you so much, both Anita and Jazmin. And I think this has been a powerful message you're delivering to all our listeners out here. So as we are getting closer to the closing, I would like to thank all the listeners, and we hope this has provided insights to the difficult experiences people and youth living with NCDs have to grapple with every day, every second, 365 days in a year. This is only a tiny step towards addressing this issue, but we hope that you will join us as an NCD young leader to tackle stigma and discrimination. We encourage you to listen to our entire series of podcasts, listen to the voices of the people at the grassroots who are trying to make a difference. We love to hear from you and about your thoughts. Once again, thank you to our amazing guests today, Anita and Jazmin, who are such fearless women out there trying to change the narrative around stigma and discrimination through their work. We know that speaking out is not easy, but your voice is powerful and much needed. And like Anita said, you cannot put us in a box. So thank you to our incredible guests, and over and out. On behalf of our team, Alex, Apoorva, Shakira, Job, and Bulandi, please feel free to listen to all our podcast series. Every voice has a message there. You can also visit us at our website at ncdchild.org. Over to you, Alex, to close.
Okay, thank you so much, Apoorva, Anita, and Jazmin, for coming in today. I think you guys are just incredible, brilliant with your work, and you guys are just role models in this NCD space, and just all power to you in trying to improve the lives of people with NCD, particularly in this rarely talked about topic in stigma and discrimination. There's a lot more work to do, and we're just trying to lead a movement that we hope that will continue on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.